Hello and welcome to the 2019 Twin Cities Film Fest. My name is Amanda Day, and we are here to talk about a film called We Are Gathered Here. I have two guests with me, Joanna, Bowzer, and Caity, Ware. Thank you so much for being here. So first of all, tell us a little bit about this movie. I know there's a little relationship mayhem that takes place.
Just a bit. So We Are Gathered Here takes place the night before a wedding when our lead character, Ben's ex-girlfriend, bursts into his home to declare her love for him. And instead of cutting to the altar the next day or seeing what happens in the future, we live in the very awkward 90 minutes surrounding that initial outburst from the ex when Ben won't kick her out.
Awkward. But also, I think it's really interesting. There's so many rom-coms that just focus on like the wedding and maybe not a whole lot of like what happened before. So one of you wrote this, right? One of you is the writer.
So I co-wrote it with the original playwright. It was a play originally that was performed in Los Angeles, and then we adapted the play. Caity and a friend of ours, Peter, decided to bring it to the screen, and then that's when they hired me because that's my experience. So I worked with the playwright to adapt it and sort of make it more cinematic, because a play, it's awesome. It took place in a living room, so we wanted to take it a little bit out of the living room into different places of the house and just make it a little more film-like.
Yeah. So is it just in one location?
It is in one location. We kind of hop around the house, but we also have a restaurant location as well. So that was one of the big differences that we put in as we transitioned it to the screen. So it's really two locations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a feature right now, and we have like 15 locations, and it's crazy. I know what exactly. So I'm like, company move. So tell us, what attracted you guys to this specific story?
So I acted in the original play that this film is based off of, and I knew the creative team. It was created by a company called Cartel, Collaborative Arts LA, and they just always did really interesting, innovative work. This one was part of their living room tour that was performed in a different living room every night around Los Angeles. So as the cast, that was cool to get that opportunity of showing up in a new location every day and going, okay, what are we going to do? But also as an actor, I was attracted to it because the character Rachel, who I play, is a real ball buster, and that's just fun to do. And then as far as being interested as a producer and turning it into a film, gotta say the 1 to 2 locations was really attractive as a producer. And also I was recently married, and all the emotions that come around that, the big decision that is going into marriage, the hard work that comes once you're in a marriage, it's a kind of cool story to explore. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what about you? What attracted you to this story?
Well, it's funny she mentioned being recently married, because I was like 2 weeks married when I got an email from her saying, "Hi, I'm Caity. We're looking for a female director that does comedy. Would you be interested in reading the script?" And I was like, sure. Then I read it, and I was like, whoa, this is like, because believe it or not, on the way to our wedding, my now husband turns to me and he was like, one of my ex-girlfriends has been texting me lately, like sending me like thirst trap pictures. And I was like, what? Like, we're on our way to the wedding. He was like, of course, like, I'm not going to go. Like, he was like, we're on the way to the wedding. But it was really, I was like, wow, like, I get this on a whole different level. Yeah. And it's like, it's also absurd. It's like this really like funny life thing that happens, but in the moment it feels very serious. And I kind of like that we, with the film, skirt this fun line of like, this feels like the worst thing that's ever going to happen to these people, but it's not. And we know that now, like being a little older and more mature, but it's really fun to like play with that as well. So that was another thing that I really loved about the script.
And I think, modern relationships are really changing. You can't really assume anything. People are experiencing relationships in so many different ways, whether you're open relationship, or maybe you have relationships together with other people, or maybe you're going to wait to have sex until you get married. I mean, there's just this incredible gambit of ways that we are saying, this is how I want to experience my relationship. So how were the modern sensibilities of relationships pulled into this film?
That's a
First time
great
we've had that question. I love it.
The first thing that comes to mind is we actually give a lot of power in the relationship to the women in this film, and I think traditionally, especially in rom-coms, a lot of the power kind of is in the man's hand, and he's the one making the decisions. And in this film, our guy is incapable of making a decision and really feels like his hands are tied, and so the women around him are the ones really driving the story forward. Yeah.
I would second that. And I think the other thing too is just this idea of like the fluidity of relationship, like that you were talking about, how we see, our character, the sort of ex-girlfriend, comes back in because she saw they were getting married on Facebook. And sort of, even though you're done with a relationship, it's still in your face. Like you still, like if you're still friends with that person, you still follow that person. It's still like you see the sort of getting over it, the next, person that they're in a relationship, and sort of like grapple with that as well if you decide to stay connected to them. So that's another sort of element I think that we really tried to bring in.
It's so interesting. We just spoke about the movie Netizens, which is a documentary, follows these three women and the misogyny that they deal with on the internet. And there is something our lives are just totally exposed. People that I haven't seen in 10 years are like, oh my God, how's your dad? And I'm like, how do you know about? Because everything is on Facebook or on Instagram. And it's a weird way to look through the window into someone else's relationship. So did you play with the sensibilities of forever? Because those things have kind of changed too. Are we getting married forever? Is divorce sometimes not quitting but an evolution? Did you play with some of that stuff too?
So that's really the fight that our lead character Ben is having internally, is until the ex comes in, he hadn't sat with the gravity of making a forever decision. And that is kind of what renders him helpless in the moment, because for the first time he's going, am I making this decision forever? Is this the night in which I decide to go down one path or the other path? Or is there a third path I haven't even considered yet? Yeah.
And we don't take it all the way to like what the healthy relationship is you choose somebody that you want to grow with throughout your life. Like he's not there yet to be able to make any sort of have that sort of realization. Yeah. I hope that his next girlfriend or his next relationship he does. Yeah.
Well, I think often really heavy issues are delivered best with the vehicle of comedy. And I heard that you guys just did this really, really well. So my last question would just be about comedic timing. Like, how did you play with that? Especially only having two locations, you can really get into the chemistry between the characters, play a scene a bunch of times. Were you able to kind of play like that?
Well, so it's interesting. So 5 of the 6 cast members of the play came back. So it was really lucky that they already had that chemistry built in. And we did recast Ben because the person that played Ben was no longer acting. And very grateful for Brandon McShane, who plays Ben, because he really brought that to life. And I wasn't the director of the original play, so I got to sort of find my Ben, which was really nice as well, and find the new tone that comes with it. But we made this in 10 days, so we got to play. But we were also we were really boogieing on set. So we're having to do 12, 15 pages a day. And these are dialogue heavy scenes with 6 people to cover, so it was really intense. So there was a lot of times where I would always give somebody just a take to get reaction, so we could always cut to that person. And that's really, we built the cadence. We build a lot of the cadence in scene because we do a lot of long shots and long takes with the cast. But then we also had some of these little cut to moments that were really helpful, specifically with the character of Bobby, who was just hilarious, and he really gave us a lot to play with. But it was definitely a team effort inside of that, and it was sometimes I was just trust me, we have it, we have to move on, and the actors are okay, sure, and then sometimes I was let's do it again because we want to keep it I don't want to cut away from this, so let's really nail this. And
this is what makes a film festival so amazing, because learning about finding a cadence and a pattern, you just don't hear that from the director, from an actor. It's just a very exciting way to now go see a film that we're looking for, finding that rhythm, So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. From the Ballard Spar red carpet, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon.